Hi, this is Roman, and today I'll be sharing a Desmos tool that can be used for Unit 7 on circles, Day 18, Part to Whole. Um, so I'm using slide 13 here, and a recurring theme in lessons are the use of these tables. So I'm going to show how you can code instant feedback for students to use for a question like this. So here I have my Desmos activity, and I have it in the form of a table. So you'll see this green highlight here, and that's for the coding. So what's important here, or what you're going to be using to modify, is the cell content. So you're not going to touch anything except for A1, A2, A3, and those are the solutions. So when I type in 12, that's the answer that students should get. And here it's going to give them a smiley face if they get 12. Otherwise, I'm giving them my feedback. For example, first find the central angle using the arc length formula. And then in my second option here, I have A2 equals 15. So that's my solution. And otherwise, students are going to receive the message of arc length equals theta over 360 times diameter times pi. And you'll see the way I formatted it here is, since it has everything in terms of pi, I just left the pi in there. So let's show what this looks like for students. So here is the table that they'd be solving. And if I put a 12 in here, and the student would click show feedback, I get a smiley face, meaning I'm correct. Let's say I put 10 or anything except for 12. Well, then I see my feedback as first find the central angle using the arc length formula. Now this gives students some actionable feedback right away without you having to go into each student's work and give them feedback based on what they wrote. So you're programming it, and they could use that feedback right away. So let's go back here, and how would you do this? So I'm going to go to Desmos, and I'm clicking Browse Activities, Custom, and I'm going to create a new activity, and I'm going to call this Sample 2. So you are not going to rewrite the coding or anything. You're just going to copy this slide. So I'm pressing Command C because I have a MacBook. You would press Control C if you have a laptop or a PC. And then I'm just pasting it, Command V or Control V. And you'll see that I have the coding there. So what would you possibly change given a different table? You might change the question, right? You might make this a question here. And then here would be your solution in this slide, and you could delete rows if you want, but the feedback is coded in the cell. And what you would do is just press that green coding button and just change the solutions and change the feedback. To finish this activity, I would add a sketch and go to a custom image, and I would add the image for the question here, and as it loads, right, I would allow students to mark up this diagram any way that they might choose to, or write some notes here in text. Notice that the show feedback button is already there, so you do not have to create that. That is going to be part of this tool. And if I go back to this activity, that coding is fine. I notice I have this K unit question, and that might be a little bit harder to code because when you have K units, that's a whole different equation, and it's a little bit harder to read through the Desmos activity bar. So I'm going to create a question, and I should see the note right underneath there. And I'm going to take this question right here where it says for each arc length, find the area of the sector. And I'm going to rephrase this for arc length K, find the area of the sector of this circle. and then I'm just going to put in the f of x input right underneath. So now if I preview this, it looks like I have that question and I have my input here, and it's not coded, but it's a little bit easier in this case if students choose to write the answer. I believe it's k over 12 times 36 pi. And I don't know if you caught that. Another useful thing in Desmos that you might want to use is if you type in the two letters pi, that becomes pi. And that is another way to add that part of this activity. So I do want to highlight a few more things here. If I click sample, based on this question and many questions, you might want to enable the scientific calculator. And if I click the student preview here, we have that scientific calculator now. So for example, if a student is finding the the central angle for the arc length of 4 pi, we would have 6 squared equals 4 pi, right? And if I wanted to solve this, I could have students write their text here. So maybe something like the angle over 360 times, let's see, if our radius is 6, that would be 12 pi equals, and it's saying our arc length would be 4 pi. So now with the use of this calculator, it becomes very easy for students to solve this question, right? We see that our k value here is 4, so using the formula I did last time, it would be 4 over 12 times 36 for the final answer, but in this case times 360 for our central angle of 120. So this is how you could utilize Desmos for these table activities and to give students that instant feedback. So just once again, right, you're not doing any of the coding. You quite literally would just copy the slide, and as you're building an activity, just press plus and paste it, and you have that exact slide now, and you can modify to your liking anything that you want to change.